Hi everyone, it's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Wednesday, June 24th, 2020. Last week I filmed a video where I was working with two of our Morelia bredli, Xahea and Sunspear, teaching them to voluntarily shift out of their enclosure onto an activity stand. Sunspear successfully did this. I showed her a target as a cue to voluntarily shift out of her enclosure onto the activity station, which she did. But Xahea wasn't wanting to come out of her enclosure. And while I often show videos about snake training and show the snakes participating in exercise activities in our exercise spaces and on activity stands, many of my videos I'm holding snakes, and I really show a lot of the snakes that are active and come out of their enclosures. We do have many snakes here who prefer not to come out of their enclosures or who are shy and we don't see very often. And there are ways to work with those animals as well. What I'm going to show you in this video is how I have followed up with Zahea's enclosure maintenance by waiting until she is resting during the day in one of her favorite hide boxes where she feels safe and secure. And I choose that time to go ahead and clean out her enclosure, clean out her water dish and give her fresh water and re-moisten her humid hide. This is just an example of how I manage one of our animals that does not want to come out of her enclosure at this point in her life and doesn't voluntarily shift out or target out of her enclosure. I hope you enjoy it, and in the future I will try to show more videos of some of our shyer animals, some of our animals that are still even a bit wild, and how I manage those. This enclosure you might recognize from a video we did not too long ago on teaching voluntary behaviors. I was working with these two snakes, Sunspear and Xahea, in order to teach them to voluntarily shift out of their enclosures when asked by the presentation of a target so that I could do enclosure maintenance. And Sunspear came right out and I was able to clean her enclosure while she was out eating on an activity stand. Xahea, on the other hand, isn't too sure what she thinks about being out of her enclosure. And she didn't come out that night, and so I didn't take her water out and clean it, and I didn't spot clean. And that's what I'm doing right now. Because while I often show animals coming out of their enclosure, and I show a lot of interaction training animals and handling animals and animals out in exercise areas, I haven't shown very much of how I manage animals who are shy, who are fearful, who hide a lot, or who haven't yet chosen to voluntarily exit their enclosures. And so that's what I'm doing right now with Xahea. I'm just spot cleaning her enclosure. I only see this one dirty area, and I'm going to moisten the moss in her humid hide. And I'm doing all of this while she is in her enclosure. She is in a cardboard box, although she has these two hides in here that are actual reptile hides. Her favorite place to spend most of her time is just in an empty cardboard box that dog biscuits came in. And that's where she's at now, resting on top of one of her hides. And I'm using this as an opportunity to clean out her enclosure, moisten her moss, and I'll clean out her water dish in a way that is the least intrusive and minimally aversive to her. In other words, I've chosen a method to manage her and manage her enclosure that really minimizes fear, anxiety, and stress in her life. Now I'm going to go to the other side of her enclosure and I'm going to take her water out. This is the side that she's on, and as I take her water out, she's inside that cardboard box there, and it does have an open front, but she isn't an animal that's so fearful that she's disturbed by me doing what I'm doing now. She's resting quietly inside that box, and I am able to see her body language, and I will be able to change my behavior if her behavior changes. So her water dish is now all scrubbed out and clean. I'm going to put it back in here and then I'll refill it. So now she's starting to come out of her hide because she's realized something's going on, and she's going to come check us out, check me out. But by this time, I've finished with everything that I'm doing. She's got her little head poking out. I'm just gonna close her door. It's good that she's curious. It's good that she poked her head out to see what I'm doing. It's good that she sees me here. I've spot cleaned her enclosure. I've completely scrubbed out and given her fresh water. I replenished her humid hide with damp sphagnum moss. And the whole time she was in her hide, her favorite place where she likes to rest all day, and I did not bother her at all. I didn't force her out. I didn't have to lift her hide out. And this is helping to habituate her to my presence and normal activities that I'm going to do around her enclosure. I will, of course, continue to target train her and continue to attempt to station train her. And I'm sure that eventually, one day she'll come all the way out of her enclosure, and at some point in time, she's going to find that very reinforcing, as many of the animals do. And at some point in the future, she may even ask to come out of her enclosure so that she can exercise, stretch out, investigate things. But handling this particular individual this way is really minimizing any fear, anxiety, and stress in her life. It's making things go a lot smoother for me. And we're able to adhere to the Lima principles, the least invasive or least intrusive, minimally aversive methods possible in order to manage animals. And that is their husbandry management or their training management. It just makes for a happier life for me as a keeper and a happier life for her as an animal when there isn't conflict between us, and it helps foster a good relationship. And hopefully she's going to live 20 years or more, and she's only coming up on 3 years old this July. And so taking the time to build this foundation of training and trust and gradually desensitizing her to activity and allowing her to habituate in her own time is really going to make for an outstanding relationship down the road. Everybody, I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, please remember to always be kind and love your animals.